So, good afternoon once again. Welcome to another session of the Safe Workplaces Dialogues, which is a monthly discussion series focused on the key aspects of workplace safety and compliance. I'm Shrimoy. I'm currently the Chief Content Officer at Lockubator, and I'll be guiding our session today. The topic, as we all know, is HIV compliance in corporates, understanding the Indian law on HIV and AIDS. Now, we all know that December 1st was AIDS Day, and as a part of the HIV Awareness Month initiatives, today we are going to explore some of the challenges faced by people living with HIV/AIDS in workplaces, the role of awareness and training, legal compliance, and opportunities for collaboration. We also have an engaging activity lined up that will help us empathize with real life scenarios in workplace settings. We're honored to have three incredible speakers with us today. Our first speaker is Ms. Saroja P. As the CEO of Indian Network for People Living with HIV/AIDS, Ms. Saroja has dedicated over 2 decades to HIV advocacy and community empowerment. With extensive experience in leadership, training, and mentoring, she has consistently championed initiatives that promote inclusivity and support for people living with HIV/AIDS. Deeply committed to social equity, she strives to uplift them by fostering economic opportunities and sustainable livelihoods. And the most interesting part is she has also been a key figure in shaping and advancing the HIV/AIDS legislation that we're going to talk about soon, driving meaningful change at both policy and grassroots levels. So welcome, Ms. Saroja. We are really honored to have you today with us.
Thank you.
We also have Mr. Firoz Khan, Head of Care and Support at the India HIV/AIDS Alliance. Mr. Firoz has devoted his career to transforming the lives of people living with HIV and sexual minorities. With extensive experience and unwavering dedication, he has been instrumental in advocating for improved access to treatment, strengthening community support systems, and championing the rights of individuals affected by HIV and those within the LGBTQIA+ community. His work reflects a deep commitment to inclusivity, equity, and social justice. We also have Ipsita Mishra. She is a senior legal counsel at Lockubator with specialized experience in HIV laws. She is an expert in workplace compliance. I can vouch for that because I work with her. And expert in workplace compliance and legal frameworks that protects the right of individuals living with HIV. So let's start with our first round, which is about barriers and misconceptions. So my first question would be to you, Ms. Saroja. To start with, let's understand what are the common challenges faced by people living with HIV/AIDS when seeking employment. And also, the second part is, once employed, what types of stigma or discrimination have you observed in workplace settings?
Okay, good evening all. First thing is when it comes to the mind that he or she is a positive, they are worried about their livelihood. That is, many people with HIV find difficult in finding, getting the job also, where they are placed to continue the job because of the fear of stigma, one is self-stigma and discrimination. And they will worry about losing their income, the livelihood. And other part is discrimination, they may be experienced, but they will be finding it difficult to disclose their status because it may affect their family or in the society. They may not be allowed, even in workplace. What happens once they come to know, they may be discriminate them, or they may not provide the proper environment for the particular person. In these places, what happens, even though they have the skills, it is not been recognized. And like this, we will be losing the young and productive age group of people where their contribution much more to the organizations. So here it's automatically the economic standard of the livelihood also we will be losing. We'll be losing the most empowered skilled laborers also. This is the what I mean to say. It is not like that. It is like when they come to know if there is a proper counseling, then they may adjust in the environment. But when there is no proper information or counseling is not done properly, so there is a fear always how he or she can survive, how he or she can handle the family, how he or she can face the society.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes.
could you give us a few examples that you may have come across in your experience where they are facing stigma, or what kind of discrimination they could face and have been facing at workplaces?
Yeah, I will give the one place of the hospital. It's a famous hospital only. I don't want to mention. I can mention the name, but not
No
the
need,
place.
ma'am. No need.
Hospital in Bangalore. What happened? She is a nurse actually. She was doing the all sort of supporting the doctor in operations and all. But when she came to know the HIV status, because it has been tested in the hospital only, and she directly disclosed the status to the in charge person, who is the appointing officer. Then what they did, they removed her from the OT and they have put on the packaging. So it's a bandage packaging, and which is not, because already she's experienced and she's a qualified nurse, but it has been they have been depromoted her. But she's fought for that. Well, that time Lois Collective was there, and then she was a part of the network also. She's a member of the network, but it is not up to the mark. Anyhow, they removed from that packaging section, but she is not allowed for the OT or anything. So such reasons were there. And other part was where the teacher in the school, where he is working as a teacher, is from the neighbor of the Bangalore district, surrounding district. So when he came to know about his HIV status, so directly they said that you are not, because it's a contract basis job. So they did not say directly that your agreement is over, your contract has been completed, so you can search any other job. For that also he had fight, but because the law at that time it was there, but when he reached us, it was very late. He has signed one letter at the school saying that I'm leaving, I have been relieved from the job. So this is how the two incidences which has come into our report. So I have mentioned this. Working in houses, they come to know because her husband was positive, and automatically they have removed her from the job. But there is another incident. Recently it has happened. Her husband is working as a security guard, but he had some TB infections and all, but he passed away last month. Owner, what happened? Because she has a kid, that kid is a little bit handicapped also. Seeing that on a humanity basis, she has kept her. But they don't know that this lady is HIV positive. They know only the husband is positive. And she's very scared to disclose her status also. So still the stigma discrimination is there, even though there is a law and there is advocates who are supporting us if we report the cases, but still it is difficult. An uneducated lady who is not aware of these laws, she's not willing to come openly.
Absolutely.
So we don't know that. We said we are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the 3 incidences which it has happened in this 5 years period.
Yeah. So basically, it's quite obvious that at every level, be it domestic work and like probably the best hospitals, this is still very much prevalent in society.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for
even
sharing
at the higher level also.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not telling because unofficially even some MLA MPs also there in this field, but they have not disclosed their status, like Nelson Mandela. But here it's without disclosing, they are managing that because they are financially well settled.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing these incidents with us. If you could mute yourself, we'll move on to the Next question, Mr. Firoz, this is for you.
Yes.
What are some prevalent misconceptions about HIV transmission, and how do they fuel workplace stigma? If you could share a few examples.
Hi, Shri, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving me opportunity, and I'm very honored to be here. And just to responding to your question, uh, see, we also need to understand HIV is spread through one human being who are living with HIV to the another human being who are not living with HIV, and through only four mode of transmission, which is unprotected sex, which is infected blood, which is sharing a needle and syringe, and through positive mother to her child. So there are no other ways through one can get HIV. But despite that, we have several other rumors or myths which can be talked about, discussed in the social spaces. For example, biting a mosquito can spread the HIV, and if you using same razor, if any saloon is using same scissor and razor, that can be spread HIV. And there are certain issues which also being talked about, or I've been hearing quite a lot, sharing toilets or maybe utensils or like cloths can lead to spread the HIV. So these are the common things which we have hearing all across the corner. But having said that, there are certain other myths which is very common in the workplace. For example, people are not very much like concerned what the other people is. People are more scared if I get HIV through this person, and maybe they are also more concerned how this person is get the HIV, because that is a more like concerning things for them. So that we have seen. So people are not only building a perception how he has get the HIV, but they are more building a perception about their behavior, their occupation, where they have get. So they are more focusing on their character and the morality things. So that's lead to a lot of other issue. In India, we are still consider a very homogeneous society where talking us on the sex and sexuality, it's not a very normal thing. So people make a fun of that person, people may discriminate the person, but they will not get a proper information how we need to deal with such persons.
Right, right. So it kind of becomes like gossip and entertainment often
Exactly.
leads to that.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you for bringing up that point, Mr. Firoz. Moving on to the third question, Ipsita. Could you outline the key legal protections for people living with HIV in the workplace in India? And specifically, who does this law apply to?
Thank you, Shrimoi. So responding to your question, first and foremost thing, the right to health. It is basically a constitutional, statutory, and a human right of each and every individual. So when a person is either affected with HIV or infected with HIV, the person has a right to health. So it is a constitutional right. Second thing is related to right to movement. And Article 19 of the Constitution also states that you can't restrict the movement of a person who is infected or affected by HIV. So in workplaces, for example, we can't or should not be having any discrimination towards person, like if they're using the toilets or if you're sharing lunch with them. Now, there are two main laws when it comes specifically to HIV/AIDS. That is, first is the HIV and AIDS Act 2017. And by virtue of Section 12 of this Act, that is 2017 Act, which was implemented in 2018, the central government has notified HIV and AIDS policy for establishments 2022. So according to this also, the antiretroviral therapy, that is ART therapy, it will be a legal entitlement for patients. Now, when it comes to this two specific legislations, there are certain principles that needs to be followed in letter and spirit. The first and foremost thing is related to non-discrimination. So any person, there should be no denial regarding promotion or termination, or there should be no discrimination. There should be no unfair treatment for their employees. You can't ask a person to discontinue the service. You can't isolate or segregate that person based on the HIV status from employment of or any form of occupation. Similarly, as I mentioned, there should be no denial to right to movement also, or you can't deny them of any opportunity to hold any public or private office. The next principle is that of confidentiality. So when it comes to confidentiality, no person basically can be compelled to disclose his or her HIV status, except there are certain exceptions. So except by like court order is there, then you can they're exempted from like disclosing. Now every establishment also who has the records of the HIV, of the status of the person, like HIV related information is there of the protected people, then they should adopt data protection measures to ensure that such information, that the HIV related information is protected from disclosure, and no person can be compelled to disclose his or her HIV status. So this is when it comes to confidentiality. Again, there can be no HIV testing as a prerequisite for obtaining employment. Informed consent should be taken. It can't be under force. Also, as an employer in workplaces, the employer should give all forms of reasonable accommodation to the person who is infected or affected by HIV. Reasonable accommodation means to assist them in any form of work that they require. Another right that they have is that of grievance redressal. So, for example, I'm affected by HIV and there is some stigma or discrimination that is going on in my workplace, then I have all the right to file a complaint. And the organization needs to have certain redressal mechanism process to relieve all the problems that I'm facing, basically. Also, there should be, when coming to the next question, who does the law apply to? Basically, the section of this 2017 Act states that it is applicable to all the citizens of India, all the employers and worker organizations, public or private sector organizations, government organizations, any MNC which is working in India, any other social partners, and all service providers. It can be anything, like any healthcare providers are there, or companies or educational institutions. So any establishment which has more than 100 or more than 100 people, then they should have this policy implemented, basically. And it can be whether an employee can be there, it can be an officer, member, director, trustee, manager, as the case may be. Now, what exactly is an establishment here? When we are defining, when I'm saying that it is applicable to all the establishments can be anything again. It can be a body corporate, it can be any organization or institution or a cooperative society, which should consist of 2 or more people, and they should be jointly carrying with some systematic activity for a year or more, that is 12 months or more, and at 1 or more places. And they should be involved in production, distribution, or of goods and services. So the thing is, we already have the law. It looks great on paper, but the main problem is that of implementation. The implementation in letter and spirit is the key. And for that, the awareness is very important. And it is not only for people in medical fraternities, but for everyone at basic workplaces also, and also in private organizations. So basic awareness is very important in this case.
Understood. So to sum it up, for private limited companies, the 100 employee clause is probably something that they need to look into.
Aware of, yes.
But even if it's like less than 100, still you would agree that it's a good
practice to have. But if 100 or more, then they need to have this.
It's a mandate. Understood. Yes. Understood. All right. So now let's go a little bit more into the practical things that companies need to do to tackle this issue. So we'll move on to round 2, which is policies, trading, and legal compliance. So for Ms. Saroja, the next question is, if a company is drafting an HIV-inclusive workplace policy, what are the top 3 or 4 points that you would recommend?
Yeah. See, this is the first one thing that I was part of the Karnataka the CSR meetings when we are drafting this workplace policy for the all government workers. So it has been practiced in 2014-15. So it has been for 2-3 years. Then there was no follow-up. There they have mentioned that rights of the employees should be protected against the discrimination and victimization and even this harassment. So normally what they include in their policies, in their workplace, what the organization has the policy, they will include this as a part. So any employee who is HIV positive, he is not denied or stigmatized, and they will be providing him the safe environment based on their leave and based on their promotion and even based on their health conditions. They may provide the job. In this, I can mention that one of the positive case which has been handled by the ombudsman just recently, he was the bus driver. He was taking ART, but he has requested his depot manager to not to put him the night duty because he has to take the ART and it is not possible. So he told the reason, but they were not listening to him. Then he came to the ombudsman and mentioned about this because since 6 years he is taking this ART tablet, so far he has not faced any problem, but he is not able to do night duty. Then there was a this verification done with the depot manager and with the depot, because they will ombudsman will be interacting with the employees also and even the managers and everyone who was involved in that setup. So then with the request, then they agreed for that now he is in the day duty and sometimes he will be in the depot as a technical person. So approaching proper, because of the policy is there at their organization level, even this local KSAT is also Karnataka state, but they should be aware of that. They're not aware of that they are mentioning as they will protect. But when orally, when he has requested with the letter and all, yes, that has been not agreed. So still sensitization should be required for all the organizations, whether it is a garments. And here in the garments, what happens mainly, they will say the protect. But at the garment level, instead of 8 hours, they'll be doing the duty of 10 to 12 hours. So here, when their policy, when we're educating them, when we're conducting the sessions, managers and even with the workers, because earlier we had a World AIDS Day program as a providing information on the HIV/AIDS and about awareness of the services and how the HIV Act will be implementing. So they know only how this act will provide support to them and how it protect them. But it has not been implemented. Already it is there. It's the rights of employees should be protected and they should not be denied from the promotions and they should get the proper treatment and they should get the safe environment as any other person. It was there, but still these are the 4 things which is already existing that should be followed correctly. And if you come to the adolescent youth children, they're in the hi-fi style. Okay, so here also what happens, we should see that what is the adolescent's thinking and what is their capacity to understand. So based on that, we should educate them, even at the beneficiary side and even at the organization level. So this is what I mean to say. There is a lot of things which we have to do, but short means it's our, this act has been bought on the employment, education and health and social to access the social schemes. These are the 4 contents which has been included because they should not be denied for the schemes benefits and they should be educated and they should not be denied from the employment opportunities. So like this, these are the 4 things which should be applicable at the organizations level or any other sectors.
Understood. So basically, depending on the industry, depending on the organization, at the office level, reasonable measures should be taken. Like you gave the example of the bus conductor, shifting him from night duty to regular timings and work at the depot. But at the same time, it cannot be a demotion, like you initially mentioned.
Yeah, and I can give the example of Indigo Airlines also, because when we are going to the recently, 1 year back, even Indigo has the
HIV policy.
Yes. Even in fact, but I was happy to see that at least it has been mentioned, and I was going through that. It is a 2022 policy. So based on that socio-economic and human rights implications, they adopted that because that policy applies to all the Indigo employees. They mentioned it. So it is good. Already they're aware of it, but still we have to educate on them. Yeah.
Absolutely. It should not be just a paper, but it has to be
Yeah.
executed. Yes, for all those, just wanted to share now that ma'am brought it up. If you just Google HIV policy Indigo, it comes up. It's a very nice policy for workplaces for Indigo employees. You can just have a look at it if you want to refer to something. Thank you, ma'am, for bringing it up again. Next question is for Mr. Firoz. There's a lot of talk about training. So if a private company is planning to conduct awareness sessions on HIV, what would your advice be? Like, how should they structure these sessions? Who would be the most suitable person to lead these sessions or conduct these sessions?
Okay. So I think before answering to your question, and I just have one thing to add after Ms. Nisha and after Saroja spoke. So we talked about a lot of time on the discrimination of person living with HIV. And we have seen that the form of discrimination over the period of time has changed. Previously, if person found positive, straightforward, they have thrown out from the workplaces, thrown out from their family, and it is blunt on their face. They say you are HIV positive, or you are suffering from AIDS, so we will not keep you in our family or in our office or in our school. That is very common. Over the period of time, we have seen a changes in the pattern of discrimination. Now, the discrimination it's not bluntly do it at their face, but in very subtle way they will discriminate. For example, you are not as efficient as your other co-worker are. You are not producing the same goods or same amount of production done by your colleague in a factory. You are taking more leaves from the offices, or you are not like looking fit, so you can take a long leave, or they are not allowed them to go to seek their medical treatment from the ART center. So we have seen that. And to tackle this under the HIV Act, so we have a like Saroja is there, so we have been working on this issue. So previously, the defining a discrimination was very difficult because if the person is not performing as the other colleague is, so it is very like a discretionary thing on the employer side. They may take a reasonable like concession for that person. They may not be reasonably accommodate them. It's totally on that. But HIV Act has provided a broad definition on discrimination. You cannot put what is like if the person is entitled to get any services, if you are not giving them, they will consider as a discrimination. Or if you are putting any kind of burden on that person because he is positive, so they will also consider that as a discrimination. So if I'm entitled to get a one sick leave of every month and you are not giving me, that is also considered as a discrimination. So that is the one thing which HIV Act has given us as a weapon to fight against this discrimination. And now responding to your question. So first, like because HIV cannot be, we cannot sensitize people on the isolation. There are certain other issues. So we need to, when we prepare that training module or training curriculum, we need to see the other aspect of the HIV. We need to talk about sex and sexuality and gender, which is equally affecting the negotiation skill, and it is one of the key element under HIV spectrum. We also need to see how we are covering the constitutional morality, whether it's the constitutional right, starting from Article 14 to 21, which Ms. Mishra has talked about. We also need to see what is the policy says, particularly policy from the HIV. We can consider from HIV Act. We can also consider from the other training thing. And within the HIV, there are a lot of other things. For example, a person can be identify themselves from the sexual minority, a gay person, a transgender person, or maybe a few people have a different lifestyle. So we need to consider everything while we plan this training. So first, we need to provide the mode of transmission. What is the mode of transmission? Who are the key affected community by the HIV? And previously, we consider HIV is only found among the key population and people who have a high risk behavior. But now it's reached to the general community. So a lot of youth who are aged from 16 to 24, like one-fourth of these new cases are coming from the youth with that age group. So we need to see these youth are from everywhere, whether they are from the college or whether they are from the young professional. So they are coming from everyone. So we also need to tackle them, their need, their area of perception, what they think, and how HIV is affecting everyone. So to have a now the time sensitive and age appropriate curriculum module for everyone. For example, youth should have a different curriculum model, and people from the middle age should have a different curriculum model. And this curriculum model, you can take that as an opportunity to make them orient or make them aware what is HIV. But more importantly, if anybody within that organization are living with HIV, or anybody within their organization are from the sexual minority or person with a different gender, so how to behave with them? Because that is a more important. If you have that curriculum to sensitize or to make aware within the people how to behave with them, people living with HIV and people from the sexual minority do not want any kind of sympathy. They just want empathy. They just want equal treatment. So if you treat them equal, I think that is a good thing. We need to have a training module which is more as a informed of what is happening in and around. And more importantly, if this training can be led by a person who are affected with HIV, that is more impactful, because a person can come and deliver the speech, but here a person is living with HIV or affected by HIV. He can inform, he can disseminate his life skills. He's a lived expert. So that can be more impactful. And we have to we have to make aware every person who are working in this in each offices. But it's more impactful if the training can be led by person living with HIV. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is probably one of the, I never thought it that way, but now that you mentioned it, it makes so much sense, Mr. Firoz, because otherwise, like you said, it will be just a training and not a real life case. Thank you. That was an eye opener. Moving on to the next question, Ipsita. Now that we are talking about workplaces and responsibilities, tell us a bit about the mandatory compliance measures for workplaces, like what the employer needs to do. And are there any penalties for non-compliance?
Sure, Shrimon. So there are certain sections in the 2017 Act itself, which talks about mandatory compliance measures for workplace. So one of the sections, it obligates the obligation of establishments to provide a safe working environment. It also states like training should be given to all the employees, basically. The next one is that under Section 21 of the 2017 Act, it mentions about grievance redressal mechanism on establishing a complaints officer. As we discussed earlier, like it is mandatory for establishments having 100 or more than 100 people to designate a person as it deems fit as a complaints officer. Another mandatory compliance is that of confidentiality of data. One of the sections under the Act mentions that every establishment which keeps the records of HIV-related information of protected persons shall adopt data protection measures in accordance with the guidelines to ensure that such information is protected from disclosure. Coming back to your next question regarding the penalties, the Act also mentions certain penalties if any of the provisions or sections of the Act are violated. There can be imprisonment, which shall not be less than 3 months, but it can be extended for 2 years, and there can be a fine also, which may extend up to 1 lakh rupees. And as we have in establishments, we have complaints officer. At the state level, there is an ombudsman, as mentioned by Saroja ma'am. So if the ombudsman is giving some order, and if you are failing to comply with that order within a specific time, then there can be a fine of 10,000 rupees. And if the failure continues, then there can be an additional fine which may extend up to 5,000 rupees for every failure that you're making. Also, regarding confidentiality as mandatory compliance, as we discussed, if somebody is disclosing the information regarding the HIV status of a protected person, they shall be punishable, and the fine can extend up to 1 lakh rupees, unless that disclosure is exempt. Like, for example, court order is there, some healthcare professional is mentioned. So these are the few penalties that has been mentioned under the law.
Understood. Thanks, Ipsita. Moving on to the next round, where we'll talk about navigating complaints and the support systems. So, Ms. Saroja, the next question is, if a person living with HIV faces discrimination at work and wants to report it, what steps would you recommend from a psychological and a formal procedural standpoint?
Okay, in every organizations, there is a complaint officer. If there is some numbers or more, if there are more than 20 employees are there, there will be a complaint officer. So they can refer, because even in organization there are counselors. Okay, and there is a committees also, as we have this POSH committee and all. So same time, at the HR level, there's a complaint redressal grievance committee like that. So they can report them, one thing. And at the state and district level, we have a structure of following the HIV/AIDS Prevention Control Act 2017. So for under that, we have a structure appointing one ombudsman through Health and Family Welfare Department. Under him, there's a district legal aid cell authority. So from each district, there's a one advocate who should be reported at the AIT center, that's a treatment center, weekly one day. This has happened in the 2014. It continued up to 4 to 5 years. But now, if there is a need, they will approach legal aid cell authority and they will address it. There is no cost. What earlier was it, same thing. But for papers and all, it will cost. This system is there. And ombudsman will take up the case, because the procedure is for the complaining. They can come to the AIT center. At the AIT center, AIT staff will be there, and that counselors maybe, or maybe the M&D officer or the medical officer. So through them, they can register the complaint online, because we have a format to complain it. This is aware by the DAPCOs and at the SACS level. And even in the few networks who are participated in this formalities, because since 2007, I think, so we are part of that, having the certain meetings and all. So who are the representatives of the networks, they are aware of it. So when this procedure is followed, if they are aware, if beneficiaries are aware who has faced the discrimination, who has faced the issues at the setup, they can report it, because one place where all will gather is monthly once they will come to the treatment center. So where they will discuss. There certain our projects are running on the care and support center to provide treatment and to support them to access the services, various services, the government scheme or any other needy services will be referred from the care and support center projects. There are different projects from the SACS also, even from the Global Fund also. It has been implemented in the every state. So they can take up the issue. If it is not there online, if it is not available, if they're not able to upload, if they're feeling somewhat, because within the AIT center, they cannot complain against them also. And even against the workplace also, if there's a complaints officer within the organization favorable, they cannot complain it. For that reason, there's a structure. The complaints officer should be a neutral person, and even at the ombudsman also, he should be a neutral person. He should not be in the particularly he has been appointed from the Health and Family Welfare. So like this, there are the format which has been introduced, and few who are aware of that, they have got this justice also. Some have been denied because of the various reasons. Because Act says the complaint is based on the stigma and discrimination. If there is any family issue, if there is any hierarchy issues, it should not be taken. So like that, the complaints procedure is there, but it should be approached in a proper way. So that is why, and another part is, even if I know that HIV positive, I'm facing the problem, I should go through important. If at the within the organization level, he or she can go to the complaints officer who is the nodal officer at their organization and who is a social welfare officer. So they are given the names. If there is any issue, they can address at the grievance committee. If it is from them, then they can approach. Otherwise, what happens? They can come to the network. So this is the process, and it should be. Otherwise, within the 1 month period, they have to approach, and they should be given justice for that complaints which has been received. And they have a procedure. Ombudsman has a procedure that he should update within 6 months period complaints to the NACO. So the procedure is there, but the awareness is there, but education is very much important. What type of complaint is there, what type of discrimination he or she faced, what type of stigma has faced. So this is the particular contents which should be related to our act which has been provided in 2017 act. So it is that they should go there section by section, then it is applicable, then only he or she can approach. So there are some more things which we should know of. We should have a knowledge on that. This is what procedure is there. Understood. And everything is in place, but still only Karnataka has the ombudsman from the appointed from the health and family welfare government. But various in other states, they are from the SACS level, that is state AIDS control societies, that which is implementing program at the state level. So from that only, the one person is ombudsman. It may be the APD, or it may be the CST division in charge, or it may be within the SACS level. So it is little bit difficult to approach them also for the ombudsman. Understood. But in Karnataka, it's health and family welfare only. They have been reporting the cases through website. But other states, we are not finding it. And some other, there are no reported cases only. The reported has been mentioned. Yeah, yes.
So what I understand is first, it's the complaints officer where a person facing discrimination should go. And if it is not there, then it's the ombudsman. In some states, the ombudsman, it's still it's a little bit difficult to approach, but that's how it should happen. Okay, so basically the importance of complaints officer, having a complaints officer is crucial. Understood. Moving on to the next question. So the question is, what advice would you give to co-workers and team leads and managers to ensure they handle such situations responsibly and supportively?
Okay, so that has to go with very holistic way. We need to first treat other co-worker and other colleagues as a human being, and we need to give respect to each and every human, irrespective of their HIV status, irrespective of their sexual orientation, and irrespective of their color and the way they look. So that's first foremost important. If we treat everyone as human being, we'll be respectful for them, for their whatever they are. So that is the one thing. In case if any office have a person living with HIV, openly person living with HIV, or even if they found that person is living with HIV, that person is just a health condition. There are a lot of other people who are living with diabetes, the same type of or the other medical condition. So we need to treat them with more empathical way. We don't give advice to have sympathy and to give them just with a special treatment, but treat them like equal people, treat them with their colleague. And that's more empathic way to deal with such situation, where you give space, where you respect with a person, where you encourage them to participate in every activity, and that it's a more exclusive. We have seen where we find such kind of environment, people living with HIV and people affected with HIV, trying with other people like every other human being, where they have been excluded or they have been marketed as, yes, they are the special people or they are some different people. Then the isolation start, then everything will start. So it would be like always better to treat them each person, whether it's a people with a different ability or people living with HIV, with the same respect and with more empathic way.
Understood. I really liked when you say just like everybody has diabetes and BP, it's a normal thing for us. We don't even react. So the same way, it just needs to be an normal workplace settings, normal
Exactly,
reaction.
and this person is not a threat to the other co-worker, or it's a threat to the overall organization like atmosphere. So don't treat them special, but treat them as equal with empathic way.
Understood. Understood. Very important message. Thank you, Mr. Firoz. Ipsita, the last question for this round. Since we have been talking about the importance of complaints officer, could you please let us know what are the legal requirements for appointing a complaints officer and who can be selected for this role?
Okay, so Shimoy, the 2017 Act, it provides for a very robust grievance redressal mechanism. It is in the form of an ombudsman at the state level and complaints officer at the establishment level. And both of them aim to provide speedy redressal, basically. There is no hierarchy with respect to filing of complaints. It is at the discretion of the aggrieved person, the person who is affected or infected by HIV/AIDS, to whom he or she wants to file the complaint. So if it is at an establishment level, it should be to the complaints officer, and at a state level to the ombudsman. Section 21 of the Act specifically mentions about this grievance redressal mechanism. And coming to your second question, like who? The section 21, it mentions that every establishment shall designate a person as it deems fit to be a complaints officer. So there is no requirement as such. Any specific qualifications or criteria has not been mentioned, but it can designate anybody as it deems fit as the complaints officer to dispose of the complaints of violations of the provisions of the Act. And there are certain manners and within a certain time limit as prescribed. For ombudsman at the state level, it can be the qualification and experience for the appointment. It should not be below the rank of a state government, the rank of an officer of the state government. But at workplace, basically, it's related to as it deems fit. So when it comes to the process, basically, the complaints officer, it will direct the establishment first to rectify the violation, basically. And the complaints officer will also counsel the person who has committed the violation. And third thing is they will ask them to undergo certain trainings, and they will take all the assistance from the district or the state's AIDS control society. And if there are certain subsequent violations, then disciplinary action can be taken by the complaints officer.
Understood. So, Ms. Saroja, Mr. Firoz, since the law has kept it vague, like as the organization deems fit, could you suggest like who probably would be a good fit to be a complaints officer? Like in your experience, if you have met complaints officers in private organizations, like do we have like, is there definitely an experienced person, definitely probably somebody senior, but do you have certain criteria in mind?
So Roja, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I will it's my thought which has come for the complaints officer. See, there are well-educated PLHIVs are working in this field since from 20 years. Okay, we can recommend that one thing. And other parties, an experienced person, it's not in the organization level, which fits to them, but he or she should be aware of the issues of the PLHIV. So because now as we aware that all the funds has been come to end and it is constrained, it's winding up movement is going on, but still people living with HIV are alive since from 20 to 30 years. So they're existing. So this is just one thing that we can take them as a complaints officer who can give the proper response, and we can provide the proper education on these issues. This is what I want to say. And other parties, even at the government level, at the SACS level, we are having the GPA coordinator. But as if now, even the GPA coordinator's responsibility has been reduced now, because it is coming under a bit developed on this. Because without having any proper knowledge or information, approaching or getting the proper experienced person to this person for this position also it is important. As we see that in the banks and all, we'll see senior persons to be the ombudsman. So like that, I would like to say the experience senior person who's worked with us, so means with PLHIV. So such persons I would like to recommend.
Right. Mr. Firoz, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I think there is a few more things which Saroja said I would like to add. In each company or an establishment, we have a certain compliances officer. For example, we have a HR, and if the company is in certain way, there will be social welfare officer. So they need to be like we need to build their capacity so they will respond to the situation which is more appropriate because they are dealing with the people, they are dealing with the other kind of the human rights and other worker rights issue. So they are the more apart from if any organization has a openly person living with HIV, he is the best person to deal with. But in case if they don't have, so the HR and the social welfare officer are the best person who can be enshine this or entrusted this responsibility.
Understood. Understood. And they can always reach out to organizations such as yours to get more understanding and knowledge of the subject. Got it. Okay, so now that we have understood, we have got so much information, the next round is for the audience. So what I would do is we have two scenarios. I'll post them on the chat box, and the audience, you feel free to respond to it. It's a scenario where similar to a workplace situation, and if that happens to you, how would you respond? So let's use this forum to see how we are respond. There's no right and wrong, so don't feel shy to use the chat. And we have Mr. Firoz, Ms. Saroja to guide us. They'll probably show us how probably we should be reacting, what's the best possible reaction. So here goes the first scenario. I'll post it on the chat. Go through it, think about it, and then start responding. So it basically says, you overhear colleagues discussing another team member's suspected HIV status, sharing unverified information. You know such gossip can harm the person's reputation and the workplace environment. So what steps would you take to stop this gossip and protect your colleagues' privacy? Okay, so let's discuss this scenario. So Mr. Firoz, if something like this happens, and if I hear something like this, what should I do?
I think if someone is overheard someone's HIV status, so we need to consider that as a personal information because that information do not come along with my way of working. Neither it's coming in my overall expected outcome from an organization, or I should not be indulge someone else's life, or I should not poke my nose in someone else personal business. So I need to stay away, and in fact we need to be more sensitive towards this kind of information. If anyone is talked about someone else's life, we need to be more sensitive, and we need to stay away from this discussion. And it would be more appropriate if that kind of incidence is happening, that should be reported to the HR, so the HR can take appropriate measure to stop that rumor. So that would I can think of, but I think there is some now response have come from the audience on your question, so you can read out.
Yeah, so Nikita says intervene, educate about confidentiality, exactly what Mr. Firoz has been talking about. Sean says best way is to complain to grievance commission or committee with the sensitive and confidentiality. Yes, so boiling down to the main points of protecting the confidentiality of the person and reaching out to the HR or any committee or any, unless you have a complaints officer or the grievance redressal committee. Correct. The next scenario is these are some things that may happen. These are to us any day. So the second scenario is where a co-worker confides in you that they are HIV positive. They mention feeling isolated and fear discrimination if their status becomes known. They ask for your advice but request complete confidentiality. How would you support your colleague while respecting confidentiality? Keeping in mind that the person you are talking to is an HIV positive person. Athira says, suggest organizing awareness sessions about workplace ethics, discrimination, and respect to prevent similar issues. Yes. Anybody else? Ms. Saroja, would you like to add anything to this scenario? Any guidance?
Yeah, I remember about the one advertisement. Person comes and says that he will in birthday party. So all the person will be greeting that birthday boy, saying that happy birthday. But at the last, one girl come that wish you happy birthday. She wishes to him, but he don't want to give shake hand to her. Then all the other colleagues together, ye nahi chalega, ye nahi chalega. So like that, awareness should happen. But only this December 1st will come. And suppose if any person or colleagues are there, so we should not entertain about the how. So what? It's HIV, no? As a BP diabetic, they also live the life. It is not like that.
Right.
They're not living. They're not special. But because of this infection, because it is the infection which is aware of it, which we are aware of it, and we have to protect ourselves by these things. It's what we say. It's like without lock our house, so that our body is not having a secular type. At any time, any infection can enter our body because there is no surrounding or binding is not, and there is a treatment. Even here, she can take the leading a normal life because we are living from, because earlier when we came to know, it's only like that. Doctor said only 3 months, but I am now living from 23 years. So it's on the willpower also. It is not like that. Only the treatment. Along with the treatment, the willpower also, it is important. It should not be like provoking other person. Oh, she got the HIV. It's not like that. So like this advertise earlier used to come, but it is not coming now. We are seeing that ye nahi chalega, ye nahi chalega. So like that, some informations and IEC method should come up.
Right, very much. Since we are running out of time, now we'll open the floor for audience questions. If you have any questions for our panelists, please drop them in the chat. We'll take those up before wrapping up today's sessions. Feel free to use the chat. You could ask questions about what you could do at your organizations or any other questions. We have the best experts today with us. I missed a few points by Kasturi and Sean. So Kasturi also mentioned provide a safe space for them to express their emotions without judgment. And Sean also mentioned promoting HIV-related events like eradicating awareness or having debate. Therefore, each one is involved to speak up for the victims. Right. All right. Looks like we don't have many questions right now. So one last thing I wanted to ask both the speakers, Ms. Saroja and Mr. Firoz, are there any ongoing projects or initiatives by your organization that could serve as models for other workplaces? If there's anything that could help private companies, can they reach out to you, or basically what sort of guidance would you be able to provide if needed?
Okay, so I'll go first, and I think after that I have another meeting, so I may excuse myself.
Yes.
So we run a care and support center, as my colleague Saroja has also mentioned. We run a project called Care and Support Center for people living with HIV, and this center are taken care by the person living with HIV, and they are leading in terms of implementation and execution of the program. Under that program, we have another component. It's called addressing stigma discrimination, and we have one committee. It's called Discrimination Response Team. So this team is comprising with the people within the district, for example, medical officer within the government hospital or the ART center, official person like DAPCO, the District AIDS Preventive Control Unit Office, and people from the legal fraternity, for example, member secretary, or maybe some lawyer from the Legal Service Authority, and person living with HIV and person affected with HIV. So these are the committee who is comprising with the different members. So these member, if they report any kind of, if they hear any kind of incidents happen of the discrimination, they immediately respond on that case. Initially, a group of people will went and assess the situation. More, what we have seen over the period of time, the discrimination happened within the family. If any person identified as a person living with HIV, the family is not ready to adjust with him or to accept him as he or she is. So we provide counseling to them. If the discrimination is severe and it's grave, so we intervene. If we not succeed, we refer this case to the ombudsman or any redressal mechanism, whether it's a court of law or any kind of tribunal. So wherever its case deemed fit, we refer to those things. And we also continuously sensitize with like employer, workplaces. Some of our like team member are act as a positive speaker. So they go sensitize the community, like the workplaces, and give their examples. So based on that, they run this campaign. So we have this campaign, and this campaign, it's mostly in 310 district level network. So it's covering all the states. So we not be everywhere, but yes, we will be in most of the places.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Firoz. Ms. Saroja, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, just at present I'm working at South India, INP Plus, Indian Network of People. So here we have the main one mission to implement, ensuring the effectiveness of implementation of the HIV and AIDS, the Prevention Control Act 2017. So that is the first mission which we have to implement across the states. So as per that, the policy level, we are working on that. And because we have to coordinate with the NHM. So these particularly things, because already care and support centers are there, but it is very limited focused. And we are not taking that, but we are taking up the policy advocacy level and ensuring the proper effective implementation of this act, so that people will be educated at the internal and even the external level. This is what I'm going to say.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining today's session of the Safe Workplaces Dialogues. And a big thank you to our esteemed speakers today. The insights that you shared, what we got to learn about what's happening, what could happen. So thanks a lot, everyone. And let's continue to work together to create workplaces that are not only compliant with the law, but also empathetic, inclusive, and free from stigma. So we hope to see you all at our next session again. Thank you, Ms. Saroja. Thank you, Mr. Firoz. Thanks, Ipsita. Have a wonderful day, and we'll share the recording soon with everyone so that we can again go through all these insights and make our workplaces a better place. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so like the sessions should be continued even from the other sides also. So it will be helpful to educate, so that we also can lead a normal life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashira. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Firoz.